Hey guys.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. We are here for another one of our questions about work. And today we're talking about something that bedevils many a startup team. And our guest, I'm Roy, by the way, if you are joining for the first time, I'm a startup investor in the future of work. And Ryan Bloomber is here. Is also a VC from K50 Ventures, which I'll let him tell you more about, tell you all more about. And the question is, and this is rare because you're an example of this, is and increasingly happening a lot more people post COVID is a team that's in multiple time zones, global team, maybe even within, you're a region or something like that. And so given that different people work at different time zones, how do you stay coordinated, aligned, get work done?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think you have to look at it from 2 points of view. So, one being the company that works in different time zones that has customers in different time zones, and then you obviously have to have workers work on those time zones, and they have to abide by those customer time zones. For us in particular, and we're an early stage fund, and we're based in New York City, who also invests in the future work, and we have investors everywhere. So we have a bunch of different venture partners. We work with companies. We have 153 companies that are across multiple different countries and multiple different time zones. About 40% of our companies are in emerging markets. So we witness and see this all the time.
So both your customers and your partners and you.
Correct.
Okay.
LPs being on the customer side, on the LP side, customers on the founder side, and then also employees and partners. It's pretty incredible that we ever sleep, to be honest. I think the first thing is be practical. So one, set a time zone that is the time zone that the company works in, and that's when headquarters is open from, and there's specific hours, and everyone should know that you need to be online during these times. And so I think as flexible as work kind of needs to be now to meet the demands of employees, I think as an employee you kind of owe it to the company that you're working for, to be there for the company and for the customers within a particular time zone. And so if you're in Mexico City or in Tulum, for instance, and you're getting to be by
Fun
the
place
beach,
to be.
you should be able to meet a particular kind of number of hours. And so I think it's good to set those hours, be upfront, be transparent, and you show as an employee, you show up, and then and that really helps with a lot of the, oh, I wasn't up, oh, it wasn't, I didn't set my time, I was at dinner.
Right.
It's like, no, you work for a
Right.
specific
It's
hours.
it's an interesting thing because you see those job descriptions that say things like, remote company or we all work in San Francisco, but you could just say, you know what, we work West Coast hours. Be in, Namibia for all I care. But if you're working West Coast hours, you're good.
Totally, 100%. I think that for me was like the biggest thing.
And can I just ask
And
about that? What do you do when you're traveling then and you're in like that local place? Like this happened to me when I've gone to the UK and like obviously high privileged jobs to be able to travel around the world and do work. But like I'll do
totally.
the day of meetings in the UK and then I'm like, now I got my San Francisco work day to do. And so is that just sort of like tough luck when you travel?
Yeah, well, so I think in that particular job, I would say your job is to be in the field and be with the customers. Um,
Yes.
Work a half day. I always kind of like, I always think I give a lot of, like, in terms of my partners and the people that work with us, it's like, you are managing your schedule. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not managing your schedule. And so I'm guessing that you're going to be doing the right thing.
And I found like a little communication goes a long way. It's like one thing if you're there half the time, but if you're there
Bingo.
for 2 days and you're like, guys, I'm just not going to be available after 1 p.m. because I'll be asleep, then people tend
So,
to
and
understand.
like Slack helps. And like, if you're too small for Slack, which is a lot of people, complain about being on Slack. And so, because I don't know, it's too cumbersome, or for whatever reason, they just can't figure it out.
As
Um,
investors in Slack, we're not that good with that, but yeah, but
Yeah,
nonetheless. By the way, real admissions, it took us twice when we first installed it to start to get the momentum for precisely that reason. There's an overhead.
you have to work at it. You
Yeah,
have to know that,
100%.
like, that's the other thing about working in different time zones that I was going to mention. I think, and the tool, like, depending on the tool that works for you, use the tool that works for you. There's other tools that are out there, and of course, Slack is something that we use, and all of our founders are now on Slack, which is great.
Unless they're on Discord, the kids Slack.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. You have to work at 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 it. And if you again, if you're a remote company and you're getting the benefits of not paying rent, and you're getting the benefits of the people that are involved in the business being able to be with their families and do what they need to do in day-to-day life, there's just some things that you need to know that you have to do, to put in the work otherwise. And I think
my brother is in a different time zone from his company right now, and they all know, but he works East Coast hours. So I get that, and I think it makes sense. The only thing that I just say as a caveat, and I'm curious you agree, is it does depend a lot on the role, in the sense that there are certain roles where it actually helps a lot to have many hours of work where you're not, I mean, software engineers, having a few hours to work when you're not on in communication with others can often be incredibly helpful. And, even for deal work, like, I'd always observe that, like, the client would start first in the morning, then send the bankers all their work, then the lawyers all their work. Arguably, being in different time zones is an asset for that kind of, like, the sun never sets on us kind of a thing.
100%. I personally, from 8 to 10 in the morning, when I'm in New York City, is my time. Like, don't bother me, don't schedule anything. And I'm very upfront with my team, and obviously, like, different when you're the boss than when you're not the boss. But
it's an interesting thing on that, though. Let me just interrupt and say, I think I used to believe that 100%. Now I only believe that like 50%, because the number of times where I've seen teammates who are talented, and including when I've done this, I'm not saying I'm talented, when I wasn't the boss, just say, like, sorry, I'm surfing during those hours. And it's like, the fuck am I going to do? Like, I can't reach the guy. He's in the ocean,
And it's just being upfront. That's the biggest thing. And now I think work is, I think people are just more comfortable with sharing, like, hey, I have to go pick up my kid. Totally. And honestly, like, you're going to get burned as an employer that like has strife with that.
Amen.
Employee. No one, like, you just can't do that anymore.
Like, my admin will write into Slack, like, going to pick up my daughter from the game kind of thing. And I always appreciate it. To be honest, it's not like I track where she is to even know, but I like the fact that she's conscious of the fact that others being aware of her presence might be helpful. So it's all those little, like, I kind of think of it, I've never played volleyball really, but when, like, you see volleyball teams when the ball's in the air and they're kind of constantly quietly whispering and coordinating, or it's kind of like that. Like, you just kind of want to have this ambient awareness of where everybody is, so you don't, like, spike the ball and they're not there. Or probably the wrong analogy. But
I think the other thing I would mention about working in different time zones is you will burn out if you're working 24/7. So I would say, empower the people that work with you to do that. Like, that is something that they should do. That's why you're working remote anyways. So make sure to put those particular wellness days or whatever you in place as a company policy, because that's the only way in which I think that, like, employees would feel empowered to do that. And then the second thing that I would mention is, I forgot about the second thing. I would have to.
Maybe I'll put up this comment, though, because it's interesting. It's not just startups. Heather, who I love, who works with Stanford's Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society, points this out, that even in philanthropy, you have exactly the same thing, and it just requires effort. I mean, it's not just that it requires effort. It's hard. So I'm not going to try to say that it is easy and merely requires effort. But those sanity days are important. During COVID, we were taking them off once a month in a coordinated way as a team, which is another tactic that I think can work. If there are like blackout hours, I used to try to do this in my old company. We could never figure out how. I wanted email to only send and receive twice a day. So it was like a train. You had to have the email on the train. And if it wasn't on the train, you wouldn't get it. Anyway, subject for another day. But I do think that sanity matters, and a unique role of the team leader with respect to this stuff is if there are behaviors that people may feel uncomfortable about doing that you want to see more of, like taking sanity hours, whatever you call your 8 to 10. I hope they work for your sanity. Taking sanity hours, just saying that's awesome that you do that and congratulating the person on it, assuming you mean it, which I
Smart.
do. I think
I like that. Yeah, I mean, just kind of getting it's building a culture. It's building a remote culture, and you can't do it. And I think a lot of us, like, if we were having this conversation 2 years ago, I think this would all be very novel. Like, what's great is that everybody has now. Like we were born in a pandemic, at least our team. So we actually spun out from our parent company to basically start this new team and start our new fund. However, we inherited all these like really amazing processes, what we did not inherit was a remote culture.
Nobody did. We are all inventing it as we go.
As VCs, partner meeting, you need to be there. You need to be present. You need to be banging the table alongside. You need to be talking. You need to have all the founders visit you in your office for some reason. That doesn't even exist anymore. Like I don't even want to go back to that.
Actually, the truth is there's a special pedestal in our office that if a founder comes in and touches it, we automatically give them a term sheet now. No, we don't have anything. I think we can think of something like that. All right. But so I feel like, though, this topic is so rich, we could keep going. And if you're okay, I want to draw. Is there anything else you feel like is essential to add on this one? Or are we good to close for now?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and this is the second point I was going to make, which I forgot, which is build trust amongst the employees. If they are remote, you got to be together. Like, just being remote and being across time zones, and because that's the way we do business, doesn't mean you can't get everybody together in at least once a year, hopefully twice a year, so that people can build camaraderie around, a special experience.
Hanging out. No, I learned that from WordPress too. I think they spent their travel money on getting the team together. Ryan, that's super perspective. And thank you for that. For those of you joining for the first time, the reason we say it's not advice, first of all, if you could distill any must-dos out of this, good luck. I mean, I guess the time zone thing is the closest thing to it, but we're just sharing what our perspectives are, and this is what works for us. And ultimately, we're all figuring this out for the first time. So you'll figure out what works for you. Thank you, Ryan, and looking forward to much more to be continued.
This is fun. Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, sure.